Come to you during a dark time from the future. StarCraft 2 is dead. In this future, macro mechanics have been removed from the game and the game is dead. I know it's hard to believe, but you're gonna have to believe me. You cannot let them remove macro mechanics! I'm back, guys, with another YouTube video, a very important one, and a message to you from the fucking future. Let's be real here, guys. So, what is this video going to be about? What am I going to be discussing in this video? I'm going to be discussing the macro mechanics are being removed from StarCraft 2. That's right. Mules, Larva Inject, Chrono Boost. Actually, I don't think Larva Inject is being removed, but Chrono Boost and Mules are being removed. And I'm not too happy about that. And I don't think you guys should be too happy about it either, to be honest. And yeah, it's I really don't know what is going on here with Blizzard. I'm really scared for this game at the moment, because I mentioned this on stream, but the only reason they're changing the macro mechanics is because they want to slow down the economy. They reckon, David Kim even said it in an interview, they slowed down the economy. Or, I mean, David Kim said that they recognized Legacy of the Void was much faster in terms of gameplay, and it was too fast, and they wanted to slow it down. And so that's why they were doing this. Essentially, they're slowing down the economy of the game because mules are gone, Chrono Boost is gone, you get less probes quicker, you don't get as much money for Terran for the mules, and Larva Inject is going to be auto-cast or something. I don't think they're fully removing Larva Inject. I think it's going to be like auto-cast from what I heard. And that's terrible, because it's going to start this slippery slope of like, well, if Larva Inject is auto-cast, then why can't I have auto-cast production on my SCVs and probes? Like, and then just everything more automated. Like, that's not good. Larva Inject is a huge part of the game for Zerg. And it's a big deal as a Zerg player if you don't have to remember to inject larva anymore. You know, you don't have to remember to do that. Then that frees up a lot of stuff for Zerg, whereas the other two, like, that's part of the skill of the game. Like, no matter what anyone says or wants from StarCraft 2, it's part of the game. The mechanics, mechanical portion of StarCraft 2 is part of the game. And that was another reason why Blizzard said they're removing the macro mechanics, because they wanted to remove some of this, like, supposedly tedious mechanical stuff, such as remembering to mule, remembering to Chrono Boost. But see, the thing is, here's the problem, guys. Macro mechanics are a huge identity to StarCraft 2. What makes StarCraft 2 StarCraft 2? That's part of the game mechanics. Like, you can't just remove that, because slowly but surely it's like, well, why not? Why are they, you know, if there's no mules, no chrono, no Larva Inject is auto-cast, why not just make Brood War 2.0? You know what I mean? Like, you always hear that people like, come on, man, Blizzard, bring back the Reaver, bring back so-and-so, like, but Blizzard can't do that, and they've even said this themselves in the past. I'm paraphrasing, but Blizzard has said in the past they don't want to just remake Brood War. They don't want StarCraft 2 to just be Brood War. They want to design new and cool, interesting units that are unique to StarCraft 2. And I'm just paraphrasing, but I think I'm getting their sentiment of their design team that we've all heard in the past. They don't want to just remake Brood War. I think that would actually be a pretty sick idea if they made Brood War 2, if they did Brood War remade or something awesome like that. That would be a sick idea, and I think a ton of people would play it. But this is StarCraft 2. And slowly but surely, Blizzard is sort of going backwards and like actually going against what they said before, and you know, removing mules, removing all these macro mechanics is making it more like Brood War, to be honest. But the thing is, it's making it more like Brood War in a bad way. Brood War, if anybody asked me like what's the best game of all time, I would say Brood War. StarCraft 1 was, and that's great. And I, even on my stream, a lot of times I'll like reminisce and be like, yeah, man, Brood War was so perfectly balanced and awesome. But the thing is, this is StarCraft 2. It's a different game. They shouldn't be trying to, make it so. They shouldn't be going back to Brood War stuff. It should have StarCraft 2 needs to like those unique game mechanics, such as the using the mules, using larva inject. That stuff needs to. That stuff needs to be unique and stay in StarCraft 2. And besides all that, removing the macro mechanics, my prediction is it's going to fuck up the game pretty badly. It's going to mess up the game really badly because the economy is going to be... Well, everyone knows Protoss and Zerg have really good late game, strong units, tier 3, whatever... Like, the entire time that we've played StarCraft 2, like, Terran has relied on mules to keep up economically with the other two races. And, with Protoss having the best all-ins usually, in general, Zerg has the best theoretical economy in terms of, like, Protoss and Terran's economy goes up like this on a graph, whereas, like, Zerg's will actually, like, go up exponentially. Whereas, like, Zerg's can actually keep growing, whereas, like, Terran and Protoss economy just stays linear on a graph for the most part because you just get like a boost of income. Whereas Zerg, once you larva inject, you get drones that let you make more drones and even more drones, and like so your economy can keep theoretically increasing. But the problem is, I think if we're just so let me talk balance here. What's going to happen if they remove the macro mechanics balance-wise? I think Terran becomes the weakest race suddenly, especially once the game is more figured out. Like, once the game is more figured out and people get to late game, get there, Terran's going to be dead in the water because suddenly you don't have mules in late game. And contrary to popular belief of, like, people saying, like, yeah, mules are OP late game because you can suicide your SCVs, Terran actually needs that late game to compete with the tier 3 of the other two races. Terran doesn't have tier 3 units, other than the battlecruiser, but the battlecruiser is terrible. So, like, the way that Terran plays, if you guys know in Heart of the Swarm, what does Terran do late game against every race? You mass tier 1 and tier 2 units. You mass Marine Marauders, Siege Tanks, Hellions. You make a bajillion Ravens, a bajillion Vikings. Like, you literally mass the tier 1 and tier 2 units because Terran doesn't have a reliable tier 3 unit like... the Carrier or the Tempest that are really, really effective in a lot of scenarios, or a Broodlord or an Ultralisk or a Viper. Like, Terran just has those, like, low-tier units, but you make a lot of them. And being able to get rid of some supply of SCVs in late game allows you to make more of those tier 1 and tier 2 units to fight against the tier 3 of the other races. So I think if these macro mechanics... If the removal of them goes through, I think Terran will actually be very weak in late game. Terran will probably be strong early and mid game because Terran has always been strong early and mid game. Terran has never had a problem early and mid game in any in Wings of Liberty, Heart of the Swarm, whatever. Like, Terran has always been good early and mid. That's like always the truth. Like, always Terran has been good early and mid game. They've been strongest in like mid game, I would say. Yeah, Terran suddenly, you get a really terrible late game because you don't have mules anymore, so you actually need SCVs to mine, which is I think that's going to be a huge problem down the line if the macro mechanics are removed, if you don't have mules. The next thing is, I guess the last thing is it does remove a skill element, remembering to mule, chrono is actually a pretty good game mechanic. You can chrono your upgrades, you can chrono your buildings, you can chrono your probes. Like, there's a lot of depth to Chrono Boost. There's a lot of decisions in, like, do I scan, do I mule, do I supply cooldown? Stuff like that. And then, arguably, there's not as much decision with larva injecting. You just have to larva inject. But that, once again, that's part of the game that differentiates one Zerg from another. If you can, Blizzard actually said in a feedback update that you can't tell like about larva inject, but you actually can. You can visibly tell because that guy has more units or more drones, and you can also tell because you can just look at the queens that are injecting and be like, oh, that queen has like 100 energy, he's missing a ton of injects, he doesn't have enough larva. Or the Zerg just dies because he didn't inject, which I mean, that's part of the game. That they should keep it like that. Anyways, to end this video, what do I think is going to happen? Honestly, Blizzard did say that they are going to test this. I think it's a really stupid change. It's unnecessary. To be honest, it's just an economy change. They're trying to slow down the game because they realize they made Legacy of the Void too fast. So they want each player to actually get less money. So this is a purposeful... Removing macro mechanics really isn't even about the macro mechanics for Blizzard. They just sneakily are trying to slow down the game a little bit by removing macro mechanics, which is the wrong way to go about it. If they wanted to do that, they could have tested other economy models in the beta. So, I honestly think it's really dumb, and I think they should keep the macro mechanics. They're fucking around, like, I agree. Like, I'm all for Blizzard. Like, I've said it for years now. They need to do patch changes more often. Not only in beta, but during the live game, too. They should be patching often and changing things, changing up the metagame more often. But this is a change that I actually, like, it's out of left field. The other thing is most pro players and most hardcore players are just going to be really annoyed and, like, think this change is stupid. And, you know... I can't blame them because I think it's stupid too, and it's like, why? Why is this... Really, this came out of left field. It's very arbitrary to remove mules and this stuff. It's sort of, you know, it's arbitrary for the most part, and I think, so, final thoughts on this, on the macro mechanics, what I think is going to happen with them. They're going to put it in the beta, they're going to remove them. People, I think myself and other people, we're going to be pretty pissed. We're going to be annoyed, and maybe people will stop playing the beta, perhaps. Here's what I think should happen. I think Blizzard should revert it and just put it back to how it is now, and just be smart about it and revert it. That's what I think they should do after about a week or two of this nonsense. What I think will happen, based off of Blizzard's past actions, is I think that these changes, the removal of macro mechanics, will be really bad for the game, and instead of doing what they should do, which is to simply revert them, what I believe will happen is Blizzard will just keep going. They will say fuck it, and they'll keep going down this line until the game is completely fucked. They'll actually just keep the macro mechanics removed and then start doing other changes that make no sense along this version of the game, this future version of the game where the macro mechanics aren't there, and they'll keep fucking the game repeatedly, and they'll keep fucking it hard until everybody realizes, like, why did they do this? Like, fuck, man. So, honestly, I hope Blizzard ego will prevent them from... I hope it'll allow them to revert these macro mechanic removal changes when they realize how bad it is for the game overall and how the game loses a lot of its identity by removing these. That's what I hope. I hope to God they're able to finally make a complete reversion of a change that is bad. But I don't think it's going to happen, and I think the game is going to end up getting fucked in the end for it because... You know, it's Blizzard. They'll make a bad change, and then when the change everybody realizes it's bad, they'll keep instead of doing a revert, they'll keep making the change even worse by changing other things, by doing other band-aid fixes instead of just a simple fucking, you know, system restore, just revert it back to what it was. Anyways, that's my thoughts on macro mechanics. I will see you guys in the future. In this dark future. I will see you guys. For now, I gotta get ready to stream and save esports in my time. I hope we survive. I hope the game survives. Because in my time, the game is dead. I've warned you all. I've warned you all what the removal of the macro mechanics will do. You have been warned. Only you guys can save the game now. Get on the forums. Get on Reddit. Tweet about it. Only you guys can stop the impending dead game crisis. I'll see you guys later. Peace.